Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Broyans Farm. Today I have another big job planned. So right here I am at the lower high tunnel, and what we're planning on doing is taking this plastic off because it's getting old and it's getting a couple holes in it, and we're going to obviously dispose of it, but we're not going to recover it right away, and I'll tell you why here. So in this high tunnel specifically, you can see how bone dry it is. Sorry, Daisy, do you want to come in? Today's Daisy's birthday. And so, it's so dry, and obviously with this covering, it can't get any moisture. And so, the only water it gets is the water we pump into it through these underground drip lines. And that works good, but it would just be good if it could get some natural weather and let it soak in for the next couple weeks until we're ready to start, laying the fabric and planting tomatoes. So that's why I'm gonna take it off, and then I have to cover some of the most important things that can't really get wet, like the inside of this fan. I'm gonna try and cover the best I can. We have this fan. The receptacles, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna try and cover as well, even though the breakers and everything will be off. I'm gonna cover this panel here. That's a thermostat for the fan. I don't know if you can see that. And then over here we have our Modine heater, which is important and cannot get wet. Oh, and then behind that is the panel. So all this kind of stuff I'm not really that worried about. This is just plain louvers, not really a big deal. All this wiring is outside wiring, so that's not a big deal. I'm just worried about these couple, maybe like 4 things that I don't really want getting wet. So I'm gonna take this plastic off, and I'm gonna reuse some of it to cover back up the stuff. That way I don't have to get new plastic. You can see right here where it's kind of wet and even getting a little bit of like algae on it, or whatever you want to call that, I don't know, green moss. And so that's the only moisture it gets, and that's just because the whole greenhouse slopes like this, and so that little bit seeps in. Unlike the other one, the bigger one up the road a little ways, that one we've noticed will get moisture throughout the whole thing. I'm not really quite sure why, but it does. So this will be really good to get this open and get it breathing. It's also very important on days like this because it's hard to see, but there's like no wind at all. When you are working on greenhouses like this, sometimes you're working on a lot bigger ones. This one's kind of small. But when that wind starts picking up and playing with the plastic, it makes an absolute nightmare to work with. So that's why I kind of picked today. It's kind of chilly, but it is completely calm. So I'm gonna go down through this whole thing. You can see this wiring in there. It's in a channel, and I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna pull all that out along the whole bottoms of each side, and then it goes up around the whole peak of the greenhouse. And then once all that's off, I have to go around each fan and the louvers down there and the doors. That's held with these lath boards and screws. So it's gonna take some time, especially if I'm doing it myself. So I just got the ends popped out right here. This is called wiggle wire. It's all much easier to take plastic off a greenhouse, especially with one person, than to put it back on. Like there's almost no way I could put this plastic on myself. But taking it off, it'll take a while, but I can get it done. So right there, it comes in like, I don't know, 3 foot, 4 foot sections. And so I'll just lay these on the outside as I move down and then go pick them back up through when I'm done. The hardest thing about this wiggle wire is I should go get a flathead, because you gotta pop it out and it'll almost take your fingernails off trying to get it with that one. So that's what I'm gonna go do next. And you can see it's really dirty and disgusting, but this is the channel that the wiggle wire has went through. Just a little piece. get that. Here we go. I got the whole bottom perimeter done. You can see because now you can pull out of that lock on the bottom there. Now I just started going up my sides. So you can see there is one huge piece of plastic that goes over top and on both sides. And then that gets locked into the ends. And then there's a whole separate sheet that goes on this end and that end. And you can see that here because this is the one side and then this is the long piece, and they both latched in to this channel lock here, which is kind of, oh, it's stapled in right there. Now you can see inside the greenhouse from both angles. So it's coming off really nice, not any issues so far, which I didn't really expect there to be. But now I got to get a ladder because, like I said before, this channel lock goes all the way up over the peak, and I obviously am not that tall. The whole bottom done, and now I got this whole peak done and the face of it. So basically this is all done. The door is separate, and I just replaced that like 2 years ago, and there's no holes or anything like that, so I'm gonna leave that go. And now all this is just free, not attached in any way, shape, or form. The only thing left is we cut out for this vent for the heater. So I'm just gonna take a knife and cut that so it'll pop off instead of taking the screws out and detaching the tube there. And then I gotta get a wrench or a socket and get these bolts out here. We have some bolts and some screws. Just pop that off, pull the plastic down, and then reattach it. The whole huge sheet on the inside is now done. Just like on the other side, I got a couple things to get unbolted here, and then I can take off both ends. All of these boards are off. It's just, again, this fan and around this door, like this handle here that locks it in, I have to take off so I can pull this whole thing off. These hinges are also holding it. Gotta take out those screws. Not a big deal, but I want to get this off just in case the wind would happen to pick up. That way it's done. I don't need to worry about it. everything is now completely finished, and it can rain and nothing should get hurt. We only have a couple of receptacles, but we covered the receptacles, we covered the thermostat, we covered the Modine heater. We had a little fan up there, which we took that down and put it in a little smokehouse there. And then we also covered the panel. So everything is good. This inflation fan is actually bad. We gotta put a new one in. We have one, we just gotta put it on. And so we'll let it sit like this for the next couple weeks until, like I said, we're ready to start planting tomatoes. Then we'll cover it, lay the fabric, drip tape, all that kind of good stuff. So to explain, this inflation fan, what it does is pumps air in between the plastic. When we put the plastic on here, we put 2 layers. We put the first layer on, we put a hole through it, and then we just put a hole right here, and then this inflation fan sucks air and blows into the plastic, and then the next layer goes on top of the other layer, but this is in between the 2 layers of plastic. So it's blowing air in and it gets trapped in between the 2 layers, so it inflates the greenhouse probably about 2-3 inches on top. On the sides it's pretty tight, you don't really see air. So then what happens when it does that is it kind of creates insulation, and that's what keeps it warmer than just, you know, if you just had 1 layer of plastic, and doesn't cost as much in heat because it holds the heat that you're pumping in or the sunshine heat in there better. And then so right here is the actual plastic that we took off. Here's the 1 layer, and then right over here is the other layer. And we were gonna throw it away because basically this is no good anymore, but we might do a concrete job here within the next couple weeks. And if we do, it works really well to put down because it keeps the moisture down underneath your concrete, and it doesn't allow it to come up through and crack it and any of that kind of stuff. I'm not no expert in concrete, so I can't really explain it too much, but I was talking to my dad and that's what he was saying. So we're gonna let this dry out. That's why we kind of have it laying out, and then fold it up and put it away until either somebody we know needs it or us ourselves need it. Okay, so today I just got out here to the market with a couple little bits of produce. I got a bushel basket here of our own cabbage. We still have onions and potatoes. Now we're kind of running out of all 3, but what we have is still beautiful, so I'm gonna start hauling them in now and get the market set up with this stuff. So here's our onions. We have a couple little bulbs of garlic left that is still ours. We have local apples. And then over here is our cabbage. We have this cabbage wrapped up because it helps it to last a lot longer. We just peeled this down because there was some yellower leaves on the outside. We're gonna let it cool down and then we'll wrap it. That way it doesn't get a lot of moisture in there. We don't wanna wrap it too quick. Spaghetti, butternut, acorn. Here's the bags of potatoes. And then these are boughten sweet potatoes and boughten tomatoes. Mom, Dad, and I also just got the greenhouse finished up yesterday. You've seen how Sammy and I got the fabric down. And then what we wanted to do, which I think I said in my last video, was to cut the legs off and get these tables a little bit shorter. Just makes it easier to not only stack our pots or flats, whatever is on here, but also for customers to reach out because these are pretty wide tables. So looks really good. We're thinking about painting the faces of them just to pretty it up a little bit. I don't know if we're gonna get to that or not. And then this table here is not in place. It's supposed to go right there, and that is because my mom is putting new barn type style doors in the market, but she wants to stain them first, and in here would kind of be the perfect place to do it. So that's why that table is not in place. But other than that, this greenhouse is ready to go. All we gotta do now is sanitize it and just wait until the plants start growing, and then we'll bring them out here. So I think that's where I'm gonna call it a wrap this video. As always, thank you guys for watching, and always remember it ain't much, but it's honest work.